Welcome, folks. I'm Jaby Koay, joined by ACHARA KIRK.
What's up?
We're looking at two different videos on the same topic since we are on the trend of Andrew Garfield finally talking about his experiences working on Spider-Man No Way Home. I thought, why not look at what Tobey Maguire is saying? And apparently there's been videos out for days about it. Two videos in particular. First one that we're going to look at is Tobey Maguire finally reveals the only way he'd agreed to return. And then the second video is from a channel called Comic Book Cast 2. And the title of the video is Tobey Maguire's Demands for Spider-Man No Way Home Reveal. You guys, if you haven't already, please do me a favor and hit that subscribe button, bell icon, all notifications, and pretty please vote this up to let YouTube know you're enjoying what you're watching, because hopefully you are. And if you're not, I'm sorry. I'm trying my best here.
What's up, watchers of the Marvel Multiverse? This is the Marvelous Wave, and today we have some interesting updates concerning Tobey Maguire and his appearance in Spider-Man No Way Home, as well as something that the actor made very clear before reprising his role as Spider-Man, the original Spider-Man, and a strange request that he had concerning the story of Spider-Man No Way Home and the story of the Sam Raimi trilogy. Let's go ahead and break it all down here. Originally, the writers wanted to make things very clear and specific. Quote, "We've got to make them each very specific. As writers, we kept saying, where are the characters in their lives? How have they come into the movie? Whereas Tobey, we're not de-aging him. He's a guy who was 43 who was entering this movie. We wanted to be true to the characters in those movies, really having conversations about specifying where they are without giving too much away, not coming in, spilling all the beans. You just wanted to have little hints of what was going on without it being all this exposition and fan service. Tobey wanted to be very minimal about how much you know. Very, very minimal. Tobey especially has come through that darkness. Tobey made it very clear that they didn't want too much story to be told post Spider-Man 3 concerning his Spider-Man, wanting to have the trilogy stand on its own, but for this to very much reflect Tom Holland's story, with Tobey Maguire and the writers making it very clear that they did not want to do too much fan service.
I think that's actually a really good idea. I would have to agree with Tobey Maguire there, because it's not supposed to be Tobey Maguire's movie.
Right.
We explored that with the Sam Raimi trilogy, and ideally with more Tobey Maguire installments, but we don't need this whole dedicated hour to catching us up on Tobey Maguire.
No, I mean, I think what they gave us was really lovely. It just gave a sense of, that he'd grown up. And the thing about his relationship with MJ, it's a work in progress and they're working at it, but it works out in the end, you know?
That was actually really, really smart, because it also allows us to ask questions, and those questions could lead to other story installments.
Sure.
As opposed to trying to cram it all in and stuff this already overstuffed movie with more stuff.
Yeah.
Which is exactly what they did with Andrew Garfield as well. They didn't want to go in and reveal a lot of the events that have occurred, which I think was a very intriguing and wise writing decision. And it's great that both Tobey and Andrew had the opportunity to shape their characters and what they've been through without coming outright and saying what they've been through. In a way, they didn't want to steal the show and take away the role of Tom Holland's Spider-Man. He does briefly talk about his future with Mary Jane and how they made it work, as well as talks about his past with Uncle Ben. But even the backstory that we get from the Raimi trilogy isn't highlighted very much at all here, which apparently was very much intentional both from the writers as well as from Tobey Maguire, which again I think is a wonderful decision on both of the actors' behalves. And I love that Sony actually wanted them involved in the writing process, as Andrew and Tobey know these characters better than anybody else, which I think was ultimately a phenomenal decision.
See if we get anything else.
This one's from Comic Book Cast 2. This might be slightly more updated, or it could just be a parroting of the previous video that we just watched. Let's find out.
We are finally getting more details in regards to everything that was happening behind the scenes in regards to Spider-Man No Way Home and the multiverse. And today we are going to talk about Tobey Maguire and the requests he made for changes to the script that had to be made so he would agree to come back. And unlike many people in Hollywood, these were actually, how do I put this? In favor of the actual film star and not the cameo, which, man, somebody should tell The Rock and Vin Diesel this is how it's done.
Burn.
So I think most of you know by now that most Hollywood big cameos or extended roles or things that are kept secret, when they go after bringing in a big actor, that actor usually has some insane requests that lead to ultimately the film franchise kind of suffering for it. And I think many people realize this, especially when you look at like the Fast and Furious. The Rock came on as sort of an outsider for Fast 5, and then as the franchise continued to progress and his role got bigger and bigger because he kept asking for, hey, I want a spin-off, I want to be more central to this, I want more of this, which just caused the movies to go all over the place. And the reason I brought that up is because it could have very easily been like this for Spider-Man No Way Home. Took the attention from Peter Parker, what he's trying to do with the villains and everything, and put all the focus on gratuitous cameos that favored the old franchise that has, well, ended at this point a decade plus ago. Speaking with The Hollywood Reporter, the screenwriters of Spider-Man No Way Home revealed that there was a request that Tobey Maguire did make, and instead of what they had written for him that kind of included more of the backstory and kind of a fanboy exposition, if you will, is kind of how it's described, that Tobey actually said, you know, I trust everybody with this and I like what we're doing here, but there's something else I really want here, and that's that, can we tone back on this? Can we focus on elements of the script that help Peter Parker's Tom Holland's journey from where he is to the end? We don't have to go into all the explanation of where my character's been, doing all these callbacks and mentions to where the world is at.
Yeah.
Tobey Maguire actually wanted a minimal amount of that. Very, very minimal.
I'm enjoying this second video, even though he's repeating a lot of the information that we just saw. I like his comparison to Fast and Furious, and it's a big revelation of Tobey Maguire not bringing his ego to it, but looking to have the best story told possible.
Well, yeah, it's nice when actors can kind of, like you said, put their egos to the side and go, no, I want to serve the story. And the story is about Tom Holland's Peter Parker. It's about his Superman. And Tobey and Andrew are here to just support him along the way.
You know, I can understand the temptation on the part of the screenwriters, though, because you want to entice Tobey Maguire. You want him to like his participation in it. You want him to feel happy that he's back.
Yeah.
And he's not just serving the story of Tom Holland, but he's got some meaty stuff and there's something serving him as well.
It's not his movie.
And then Tobey Maguire's like, yeah, no, you don't have to do all that. This is not my movie. This is his movie. Both videos we were looking at was referring to the Hollywood Reporter article, so I thought we could just jump straight to that and see what we find. How Spider-Man No Way Home was shaped by its secret stars. Screenwriter Chris McKenna and Eric Somers reflect on working with its mystery protagonist and dive into the biggest twist of the $1 billion grossing superhero film. No one knows the character as well as, or gives as much thought to the character as someone who has to then embody it and sell it.
Well, you would hope so.
Right.
I think any actor worth their salt, yes, they would do that, but not all actors.
By December 2020, Maguire and Garfield were both secretly signed onto the project, but had yet to receive any script pages.
Oh, wow. They weren't even signed on until December.
I know, that's
2020.
Weird. That's weird.
That's so late.
It feels rather late. That's crazy.
And then they wrapped the film and got it ready to come out December 2021. That's wild.
Well, also consider...
And it's a pandemic.
I would really... I know, right? I would really love to know the whole production process of how this all went down, because it all feels very... Like
secret.
They streamlined the shit out of this process. Well, remember though, Tobey Maguire and Andrew Garfield were only there for 2 weeks.
That's true.
Even with consideration to that, the turnaround on this was nuts. Maguire, who played Spider-Man in 3 films from 2002 to 2007, wanted to keep things quite minimal when it came to the revelations about his character post Spider-Man 3. Garfield, who starred in 2 Amazing Spider-Man films from 2012 to 2014, embraced exploring the dark path his Peter Parker went down after the death of Gwen Stacy, Emma Stone, in Amazing Spider-Man 2. He also latched onto the notion that his version of Peter was the middle brother.
He loves
I can imagine Andrew Garfield in the room just like...
He's like, oh my God, yeah, and yes, I'm definitely the awkward middle brother. Like, yes, give it to me. I want to play that guy.
Peter 3! You know? They had great ideas that really elevated everything we were going for and added layers and an arc, and we really actually started honing into the idea that these 2 guys were really helping Tom's Peter on his journey to becoming who he ends up becoming, says McKenna. The Sony and Marvel Studios co-production has earned more than $1 billion globally, $500 million domestically, the highest in Sony history. The team, wow, I didn't know that. The team behind the film is even launching a Best Picture Oscars campaign.
What?
I don't see that happening.
Yeah.
No. Get out of here.
I mean, if a Marvel, like a superhero movie won Best Picture, that would be something.
Then knowing that we had to get pages to Tobey and Andrew, at a certain point, we had to get them Act 3. We had to get those pages to them literally a year ago. We were holed up getting pages to them before Christmas of last year. Oh, God.
Wow.
God, that sounds so stressful. Well, I think that about covers it. So, as we've already said in the video earlier, I think that's super cool that Tobey Maguire put his ego aside like that, because I think that it really helped the story. Well, there were definitely clunky moments in the movie. It wasn't a perfect story by any stretch. I think that Tobey Maguire's input definitely elevated it. Tobey and Andrew, presumably.
Yes.
I think it definitely elevated it. Watching those videos and reading this article gives me a different perspective on Tobey Maguire that I didn't have. When I'm watching the movie, he's so low-key in the film that it almost felt like he didn't want to be there, and I've heard that from other people as well. But then one person I spoke to said he watched it again, and he didn't get that sense. He started to feel that Tobey Maguire was just that sage older guy.
Yeah.
You know, and I did start to get that feel the more I watched No Way Home. I saw it 3 times in theaters. And so looking back at clips of the original Spider-Man trilogy from Sam Raimi, it does go more in line with Tobey Maguire's portrayal of Peter Parker. So it does actually make a lot of sense. And reading this and hearing what Tobey Maguire requested from the writers, it actually has me even more excited to have Tobey Maguire back for more Spider-Man installments. Before making this video, I was strictly like, oh my God, just one more Andrew Garfield. Just one more Peter 3. I mean, yes, Tom Holland, but more Peter 3. But reading this, I'm like, oh, you know, he's all about having the best story possible. Not that Spider-Man 3 really speaks to that, but knowing all that, I'm like, oh, I'm really rooting for him even more now. If I'm being totally honest, I didn't care like if Tobey Maguire had more Spider-Man movies. Now I do. I've had a change of heart. Just to be clear, like it wasn't that I never wanted to see Tobey Maguire again. I just wanted, if we were gonna have him back, I just wanted him as part of like the 3 of them, the trio again.
Oh, right, you didn't want his own.
I didn't care. I didn't care about a Spider-Man 4 for him before, but now I'm like, you know what? Let's get all of them Spider-Man movies. That's what Sony's probably planning anyway. You get a Spider-Man movie, you get a Spider-Man movie, I'll get Spider-Man movies.
I've always enjoyed him as an actor, and he does seem to be more of like an actor's actor. He seems to be quite serious about his work and his craft. Sony and Marvel have done a great job of casting these guys as Spider-Man. They all just bring something really special. Whatever it is, that secret sauce that they have as people, as actors, and they're really putting in the work. Mm-hmm. And it's not just, you know, this kind of surface level comic book movie and, oh, we'll just phone it in or whatever. Mm-hmm. Like, it really does feel like they're playing really well thought out, lived in characters. And it was smart of the writers to involve them in the process, or at least get their input somehow.
I would definitely still like to see the 3 of them back together at some point in the future, if that's possible. You guys, thanks so much for hanging out. Hopefully you enjoyed that. Hit that subscribe button if you haven't already. Hit that bell icon, all notifications, and pretty please vote this up to let YouTube know you enjoyed what you watched. I'm Jaby, Koay. This is
ACHARA, KIRK.
Peace out.